Okay, so February, middle of February, Range Rover project. It's coming on. Get the wheels back on. It's been a while getting to this stage. So basically, what I've done, it's been right down to a bare chassis. Chassis went off. It was sandblasted and then powder coated. The powder coating went on over a rust proofing layer and then a zinc coating, epoxy zinc coating layer. So I'm anticipating that the powder coat should be a fairly solid surface. Happy enough with that. Little bits of welding around and about I had to do, not a huge amount. It was mainly on this corner, so some of the welding was already here, so patches like that one were in place, they're solid. I wasn't going to do anything with them. I had to replace the bump stop on this side, which is down here. So the bump stop went in down there, and a couple of patches along the side there. Not the most beautiful welding, but underneath a 1970s Range Rover. I had to do the job quite quickly. So far, starting at the front end, I've rebuilt the front axle. I need to shim out the front swivels and get those set up correctly. Then I can fill the front hubs. I've got new CV joints on one side, the other side was fine. New springs because the old ones were rusty. There's the cross member there. Let's move the cross member out of the way. That's getting ready. I might powder coat it. I might just chassis black it. Steering box. Didn't need to rebuild it. Just checked it. Seals are intact. No play. Put it back on again. I've used the old hoses there just to protect it. As I say, the front axle. Rebuilt the differential. Didn't need anything, to be honest, so I just took it apart, checked the bearings, checked the backlash, checked the mesh, put it all back together again. Dead easy on Range Rover, Land Rover axles. Panhog rod has gone in. I've polybushed the whole thing, but I've used, I don't know if we can see it, these are polybushes, proper polybushes, there's the box up there, but they're black. Rather than blue, yellow, red, dayglow, orange, whatever. It does mean that they kind of have a bit of a look of the original rubber. So here's a good example. So there's the back. That's at a funny angle at the moment because there's absolutely no weight on the chassis whatsoever. It's got its own weight on and an old prop shaft. It's an executive decision from my part, so I just went for that. At the back end, again, rebuilt the differential. I still need to paint the axle casing, but I wanted to get the axles back on the car and back together again. Rebuilt the hubs, new discs, and sorted out the hubs. These are the old wheels, but just put them on for now. I've got to set up the original wheels to go on it. Again, new springs. I've got to sort the A-frame bracket out. I've got a new, I've got a used old stock Bose self-levelling strut because the one out of the car was knackered. This fella just needs a bit of cleaning back and painting. Very, very highly charged units, and you will not be able to compress that damper. It needs the weight of the car on it. But that unit is more than serviceable. I'm going to clean that back, paint it engine blue or something, I guess. Ford engine blue is about the right sort of colour, I guess. And then fit that back in. I've got new joints for the top here, and I've got a new joint for the bottom there, and then the A-frame bolts up there and there, and keeps the axle and stops the chassis from wobbling from side to side. We nearly lost that. I'll put that back on the shelf again before I lose it. Then, what else have we done? So that's been the main part of the chassis mechanical part. In the background there you can see the body frame. The car was very rusty, to be honest. I'll post up a picture really of the bits I threw away, but effectively everything there below the window line I had to replace. From below the door catch on the B post I had to replace, and from below the top hinge mounting on the A post I had to replace. The sills are new. the plans for this, I'm going to sand it back to bare metal. I'm going to treat any areas of rust with the Rust Buster product. So I'll just sand this back and then I'll treat the rust. And then I'm going to put an epoxy primer over the top and clean it up. There's a small piece of rust in there and I still need to fix. I basically wanted to get the side frame so that it was in a solid enough state so I could lift it off the chassis, and the rest of the body is over here. Oh, there's the A-frame. So in here, behind this table, is the other side frame. I've got the roof in there. There's all the wings, doors and so forth. Doors need a lot of work, as does the gearbox cover. In here, underneath the cardboard, is the rear goalpost section, and again that needs a reasonable amount of work. It's not too bad. Interestingly, these holes here, that hole that looks like someone stabbed it with a pike, is a Land Rover feature. I don't know if it's something to do with the fitment of the body frame together in the factory, but I've got exactly the same holes on my 1993 Range Rover. The main work I need to do on this one is see the top rail. Bear in mind this thing's on its side at the moment. The top rail has got some chunks of rust on it that need pulling out. There's the set of wheels that I've got for this project car. I've got a pair of engines. So this one is an SD1 engine. It's higher compression than the Range Rover engine, higher power, probably lower torque. And under there I've got a Range Rover engine, but it's not A-Suffix, unfortunately. It's the best I could get hold of. I'm not paying thousands for a Range Rover original A-series engine block yet. Anyway, under here, this thing is dirty. This thing weighs many tons. It weighs more than the bloody engine. So that's on a trolley at the moment, and I'll pull that out. And again, I've got a feeling the car's actually quite low mileage, because all of the mechanical components I've taken apart so far have been very limited wear. The differentials, for instance, virtually no wear at all on them. It's difficult to know whether someone in the past has rebuilt them. When I bought this car 2.5 years ago, the previous owner had it 20 years, but unfortunately died a few years before I bought it, and I bought it from his widow. He was a welder by trade, and a lot of this work at the back here is his. He obviously just kept this thing running over many years. Unfortunately, when it came to the body frame, he was patching over rust and then patching over that when it rusted through, and so that's why I had to cut quite so much of it out. I mean, it'll end up looking like this one out here. That's my dad's. So yeah, looking forward to getting it back. So the next stage for this one, really, I want to finish off the body frame. So I've got the two side frames on the bulkhead up here. The bulkhead is kind of where I started welding on this project, and I started on this corner, and some of this work isn't very attractive. What I'm going to do here is cut all of this repair out and just weld in a single piece of flat steel and make it look a bit tidy. This area, because the inner wing comes down to here, this area is seen when you open the bonnet up. A lot of this stuff down here, again, it just needs a seam putting up and around, and then I'm going to blast it all back and clean it up. On the driver's side, this hole is where the steering column comes through, and I had to replace this whole section because the bit that came off as the car was, it was properly rotten. But the bulkhead now at least is quite stable. These cars, they're like giant Meccano sets, so you're looking at the footwell down here, and that mounting there bolts onto the chassis, so you've got mountings there, and those are where the bulkhead fits. onto that one and that one. They're just rubber mounted. So you've got the footwell here, obviously the transmission tunnel. That's where the pedal box goes through. The steering column goes through there. This is the side of the bulkhead, and then the A post that the door attaches to bolts on down here. So there's bolt holes to secure it, and at the top there is the bottom rail for the windscreen to go into, and then the rest of the windscreen frame is up the sides here. Quite a clever design, really. I mean, they really did make this thing so it could be flat packed and shipped to far reaches of the planet, which is good. Right, so today I'm really, because I can't do painting, it's about, I don't know, about 6-7 degrees. It's cold today, so I wanted to really rust treat those, but the rust treatment I've got really needs to be used above 10 degrees, so I'm going to put that off for another day. I want to do the job properly. I've got some prop shafts to assemble. I've got the steering rods to assemble. The old steering rod is down here. There it is, just kick it out of the way. Right, so that's the track rod that connects the back of the two front hubs. Then you've got the steering box here. On the bottom of the steering box, you've got a drop arm with a ball joint, which is there. And then a drag link which goes from the bottom of the steering box all the way across to the front hub, the front near side hub. And what happens is then as you turn the steering, the front near side hub moves. The track rod on the back of the near side hub then turns the offside hub. I've been trying to reuse as much stuff as I possibly can, hence old prop shafts and stuff. I mean, that's what it did look. That's the back prop shaft, that one. Looks like that. Now it looks a bit like that, and already for new universal joints and so forth, which I've got somewhere. Universal joints, perhaps I didn't. Maybe I didn't buy the universal joints. Okay, I need to get universal joints to the prop shaft. I obviously failed to order those. They need gaiters as well, so the gaiter for the front prop shaft wasn't particularly good. The way the prop shaft works, it's got a spline on here and it's got a cup in here, and it allows the prop shaft to extend and shorten, of course, as the axle articulates up and downwards, because obviously the gearbox is in a relatively, or the transfer box I should say, is in a relatively fixed position in the middle of the car. You have the universal joints that allow the prop shaft to work through multiple angles, but as the front axle articulates, that prop shaft needs to extend and shorten, and it happens at both ends. So because of that, you end up with the bellows unit on there, and this was probably locked up, but oh no, it does move. There we are. So you can see the prop shaft I'm able to compress and extend that. Got quite a nice fluid action again, indicating that although it's mucky and crappy, it's got old style universal joint cups in it, but very, very little play in those UJs. I'm going to take them apart because they're probably 40 years old, and replace them with GKN originals. But the whole thing, although it was very rusty, has a feel for a car that's actually relatively low mileage. I'll have to go and find the speed of it in a minute and see what miles are indicated on that. I don't have any history with the car. I mean, that was the engine that came out of it, which is out of an SD1. Rover SD1. An early SD1, but still an SD1. And it may well have been put in there in a pursuit of performance over torque. I don't know. It's got its original gearbox. On the axles, I've got original axle numbers. There we are, you can see that. So original axle numbers, which is quite unusual for these things, because a lot of these things, they were VIN plate raped for VED rolling rotors. And again, the back axle, you can see it actually. I need to sand that back. The numbers along there. So it's got its original, original axles. So original gearbox, original axles, original chassis. It's had some modifications to it, again by the welding previous owner, who kept it on the road for so many years. Its last MOT was in 2011. and I bought it 2015, beginning of 2015, beginning of 2016. Might have been 2016. I don't know. Anyway, I bought it 2 years ago. We're February now, so I've had it 2 years pretty much now. So there you go, 2016. So it's been off the road for 7 years, and in the 4 or 5 years that it was off the road, it had terminal rot all over the place. As I say, I posted a picture in this video of the bits I threw away, but effectively quite a lot of it. Don't know what else to say really. Homemade fuel tank for it that the guys obviously made up. Doors are going to be a big issue. I've got the doors stripped down at the moment. The doors are rusty around the frames. The covers themselves are made out of a alloy called Burma Bright,